Good morning, guys. In the last session, we started our discussion related to how to develop REST APIs by using Java. In Java, we have two options to develop REST APIs. One is by using JAX RS API. Another one is by using Spring Framework. We are using Spring Framework to develop the REST APIs. In the Spring, we have a WebMVC module. In the Spring, we have WebMVC module to develop REST APIs. Good. We are using Spring Boot to develop our Spring applications with less configuration. In the REST APIs, two components will be available. One is called as a resource, another one is called as client. Resource means provider, client means consumer. Right. So to create the REST APIs, we are using Web Starter. To create the REST APIs, we are using Web Starter. Web Starter will provide the support to develop the REST API, and it will provide embedded container also to run our application. And we have dev tools. Dev tools are used to restart the container when we make the changes in the code. And the most important thing, to develop the REST API, we need to create a REST controller. So to represent our Java class as a REST controller, we will use @REST controller annotation. To represent our Java class as a REST controller, we will use REST controller annotation. REST controller annotation is equal to controller plus response body. REST controller annotation is equal to controller plus response body. So REST controllers will give the response directly. There is no presentation logic. REST controllers are used for B2B communication. Whenever you write the method in the REST controller, those methods should be binded to GET request or POST request or PUT request or DELETE request. When to go for GET, POST, PUT, DELETE, if a client wants to get the data, then method will be binded to GET request. When client want to send the data securely, then POST request. When a client want to update the data, then PUT request. When client want to delete the data, then DELETE request. GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE. So once we have created the REST controller and we have developed our methods, we can run the application and we can test it. To test the application, we are using Postman. Postman is an open source software, free software we can download, and we can test our REST API. Using Postman, we are sending HTTP request to our application and we are testing. So we created REST controllers and we have tested that. So first we developed our method by using GET request. We developed our method by using GET request. GET request will not contain the body. So that's why we have created GET request with the query parameters. So as the GET request will not contain request body, we are sending the data to the GET request in the URL. So how can we send the data to the server in the URL? We can send the data to the server in the URL as a query parameter. What is a query parameter? Query parameters are used to send data to server in URL directly. Query parameters will represent the data in key value format. Query params will start with question mark. Query parameters will be separated by AND operator. Query parameters should present only at end of the URL. So whatever the URL you have, in that URL, only at the end you can write the query parameter. To read query parameters from the URL, we will use request param annotation. So guys, are you able to understand what is a query parameter and how to deal with query parameters? Are you able to understand what is query parameter and how to deal with query parameters? Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL. Query parameters are used to send data to the server in the URL directly. Query parameters will represent the data in the key value format. Query parameters will start with the question mark. Query parameters will be separated by AND operator. Query parameters should present only at end of the URL. What is the annotation we will use to read the query parameters? What is the annotation we are going to use to read the query parameters? Can you tell me? Which annotation we will use to read the data from the query parameters? We are going to use request param annotation. We are going to use request param annotation to read. We are going to use request param annotation to read the data from the query parameter. Can we have more than one query parameter to the method? Can we have more than one query parameter in the URL? Can we have more than one query parameter in the URL? Yes, we can have more than one query parameter also in the URL. We can deal with two query parameters, three query parameters also we can use. Okay, so today we are going to talk about what is path parameter. Path parameters are URI variables. Path parameters are also called as URI variables. Okay, fine. Let's try to understand what is path parameters or URI variables. URI template variables, URL template variables or URI template variables. First one, path parameters. Path parameters are also used to send data to server in URL. Query parameters are also used to send the data to the server in the URL. Path parameters are also used to send the data to the server in the URL. Sir, then if both are used to send the data to the server in the URL, then what is the difference? Right. Path parameters will represent data directly in the URL, no key value. Directly data will be represented. Path params will represent data directly in URL, no keys. Query parameters will have the keys concept. Path parameters will not have the keys. Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Query parameters should present only at the end of the URL, whereas path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Path parameters will be separated by slash. Path params will be separated by slash. As path parameters doesn't have any key and can present anywhere in the URL, path params should be represented in method URL pattern. Path parameters should be represented in method URL pattern. This is called template URL template pattern because path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. So where is that path parameter in the URL? Which is the path parameter? Which is the URL? For example, if I am going to write one URL like this, www.ashokit.in/courses/sbms/courses/sbms trainer is Ashok. So now here, guys, if you look at this, everything is looking like a URL. If you look at this, everything is looking like a URL. How can you understand which is a path parameter here? How can you understand which is path parameter? Can you understand what is path parameter in this URL? Can you understand what is path parameter in this URL? How many path parameters available in this URL? How many path parameters available in this URL? Some people are saying 2 path parameters. Some people are saying 3 path parameters. Some people are saying 4 path parameters. So that is the confusion. That is the confusion. So that's why path parameters should be represented in the URL pattern. This is one path parameter. This is one path parameter. And this is one path parameter. How many path parameters are available? 2 path parameters are available. So path parameters are used to send the data to the server in the URL. Path parameters are also used to send the data to server in the URL. Path parameters will represent data directly in the URL. There is no concept of keys. Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Path parameters will be separated by slash. Path parameters should be represented in method URL pattern. So it is called template approach. If you don't represent the method URL pattern with path parameters, then you cannot deal with the path parameters. So in the URL, you can have multiple path parameters. Those path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. There is no key concept. That's why path parameters should be represented in the URL pattern. Then only server can understand in this URL where is the path parameter and how to retrieve the path parameter. If you go for query parameter, clearly it is separated. Query parameters will have a key value. Based on the key, it can identify where is the query parameter, and it will understand query parameter starting at question mark. Query parameters will present only at the end. But for the path parameters, it is not like that. Path parameters will have the direct value. There is no key concept. They can present anywhere in the URL. So that's why path parameters should be represented in method URL pattern. So that is called template pattern. So in this URL, I want to represent course name. That is, course name is one path parameter. Trainer name is another path parameter. ashokid.in/courses. Course name is a path parameter. Trainer name is a path parameter. This trainer is URL. It's part of URL pattern. So this is one path parameter. This is another path parameter. Okay, let's go here and let us create one method. Let's go here and let's create one method. So I'm going to create one class, new class. Let us create book REST controller. Let us create one book REST controller. First of all, to represent this class as a REST controller, we are using one annotation called @REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, we are using @REST controller. I want to write one method, public response entity string get book price. Response entity get book price. Okay, I want to bind this method to get request. Can you guys tell me how can I bind this method to get request? We will use annotation called get mapping. We will use get mapping. Now I'm going to write the URL pattern as a book. So what is the price of a book? Which book? I need to specify. I want to take the book name as an input. So you need to specify name like this. You need to specify name like this. So why I need to specify the name? I need to tell to the server where the path parameter coming in the URL. Path parameter is available in the middle of the URL, or path parameter is available at end of the URL. In which position path parameter will come from the client, that I need to specify in the URL pattern. This is called template pattern. Got it? So if I don't write like this, then Server will not understand about the path parameter. How can we tell to server that this method is expecting path parameter? In the URL, you have to represent that. So slash book is a URL pattern. After the book, whatever the client is going to send, that will be considered as a path parameter to the name. Now let us take string name. How to read that path parameter? To read the path parameter, there is a annotation called path variable, not path param, guys. Path param annotation is in the WebSockets. So in here, in the Spring Web MVC, there is no annotation called path param. There is an annotation called path variable. What is the annotation we have? Path variable annotation is available. What is the path variable I have specified in the URL? Name is the path variable. Name is the path variable. So how to read the path parameters from the URL? To read path parameters, we will use path variable annotation. To read path parameters, we will use path variable annotation. Okay, I got it. Next, I need to prepare response body. Response body, book name, price is $400. Whatever the book you are passing, that book price is $400. I'm going to send this as a response body. We have the payload. Construct the HTTP response by using a response entity. How can we construct it? New response entity of response body comma HTTP status dot OK. HTTP status dot OK. That's it. Right. Response body comma HTTP status dot OK. Response entity of string response body comma HTTP status dot OK. New response entity of string of response body, new response entity of this. Okay. Book REST controller, book price, course REST controller we have, and book REST controller, new response entity of response body of status HTTP status dot OK. Clear? Right. Now then return that response entity object. Are you guys able to understand how I am writing a REST controller which is having a method which is having a path parameter? Get book price, book name I am expecting in the path parameter. So I'm specifying that path parameter in the URL pattern. Three annotations I'm using. One is REST controller, second one is get mapping, third one is path variable. REST controller is used to represent our class as a distributed component. REST controller nothing but controller plus response body. Get mapping, it is used to represent our method is binded to get request. Slash book is the URL. In the URL, I will get a path parameter. So I'm representing the position of the path parameter in the URL. Path parameter can present anywhere in the URL. Currently, I'm specifying the path parameter in the URL name. So how to read the path parameters from the URL? To read the path parameters from the URL, we are using path variable. Can we have multiple path parameters? Can we have multiple path parameters? Can we deal with multiple path parameters? Yes or no? Right. We can deal with multiple path parameter also. Public response entity of string get book, string book name, string author name, string book name and string author name. Okay, string response body is equal to book name by author name is out of stock. Is out of stock, something like this. I'm taking book name and I'm taking author name. Return new response entity of response body comma http status dot ok. http status dot ok. http status dot ok. So I have created response entity get book. It is taking book name. It is taking author name. Now, can you guys tell me the URL pattern for this method? Can you guys tell me the URL pattern for this method, which is expecting two path parameters? Come on, guys. Can you guys tell me URL pattern for this method? Come on. First of all, bind this method to get request. I'm using get mapping slash book b name slash a name. Is this clear? B name is one path parameter. A name is another path parameter. How to represent them? Using path variable. Using path variable. B name and this is A name. Clear, guys? This is the method which is having two path parameters. One is B name, another one is A name. Method URL patterns are same. This is also binded to get request. This is also binded to get request. This URL pattern is slash book. This URL pattern is slash book. But there is a difference in the number of path parameters. This method is expecting only one path parameter. This method is expecting two path parameters. Let's execute it. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Application started on the Tomcat server with 8080. Let's go to our browser, guys. Let's go to the browser, or we can go for Postman. We can go for Postman. Postman plugin. I have the Postman already added to my Chrome browser. I will open Postman. Postman is a tool which we are using to test our REST APIs. Okay, clear all these things. Yeah, so this is my Postman tool which we are using to test our REST API. My REST API is running. My REST API is running. Now I want to test this REST API. Go to get request, localhost colon 8080 slash book slash spring. I'm sending path parameter in the URL. Click on send. Spring price is $400. When I send one path parameter in the URL, which method is executing? Both are having slash book only. When I send one path parameter, which method is executing? First method is executing or second method is executing? Which one is executing? First method is getting executed because the URL pattern is matched to first method. The URL pattern is matched to first method. Okay. Now spring slash Rod Johnson / Rod Johnson. Now which method is executing? Spring by Rod Johnson is out of stock. Which method is executing now? How many path parameters I'm sending? 2 path parameters I'm sending. Second method is getting executed. Okay. Path parameters should be available only at the middle of the URL, or they can present anywhere in the URL. Path parameters should present in particular location. They can present anywhere in the URL. They can present anywhere in the URL. How can we represent them anywhere in the URL? book/name/author. Now, so in this, can you understand where is the path parameter in the URL? Can you understand where is the path parameter in the URL? Can you tell me the URL to access my second method? Can you write the URL to access my second method now? Can you write the URL to access my second method? Come on guys, fast. Write the URL pattern to access my second method. Quick. Quick guys, quick. Write the URL to access the second method. People are sleeping. People are not responding. People are not responding. Come on. Very good. Here I'm going to specify /book. Name is part of the URL pattern. Spring is my path parameter. Next here, what is the second one I have given? Author. What is the second one I have given? Author. Author is URL pattern. Rod Johnson is the name of the author. Click on send. Spring by Rod Johnson is out of stock. So path parameters are available. Suppose if I give this URL, can people understand which is path parameter and which is URL pattern? If I give like this, can people understand which is path parameter and which is URL pattern? Is it easy for the people to understand this? No. So that is the reason what we need to do. We need to represent the path parameters in the URL pattern only. We need to represent path parameters in the URL pattern only. Okay. So with this we understood what is path parameter and what is query parameter. We understood what is path parameter and what is query parameter. Can you guys do some research now when to go for path parameter and when to go for query parameter? Both are used to send the data to the server. Both are used to send the data to the server. But when to go for path parameters, when to go for query parameters, can you do some research? Can you do some Googling? Can you do the Google and can you tell me when to go for path parameter, when to go for query parameter? Can you check it now in the Google once? Yeah, take 2 minutes of time, check it and let me know when to go for path parameter and when to go for query parameter. Come on, start. You search it. When to use path param, when to use query param, you search it. Guys, did you find some solution? Did you find some solution? When to use query parameters and when to use path parameters? Interview question. Both are used for same purpose, right? Both are used to send the data to the servers in the URL when we are using a GET request. GET request is meant for getting the data. So there is no request body to send the data to the server. Suppose, for example, if a client want to send the data to the server, then client is having only one option, that is in the URL. In the URL also, you can send the data in two ways, path parameters and query parameters. So when to use path params and query params. Path params versus query params. What are the differences between path parameters and query parameters? Guys, if you have multiple records to retrieve, then we will go for query param. That means your query param will result more than one record. To retrieve more than one record, we will use query params. To retrieve a specific record, to retrieve more than one record or resource, right, we will go for query param. So if there are several records, from those records we want to find out some records based on some condition, basically filtering. So when you want to do filtering condition, then we will go for query param. To retrieve specific record, particular record, specific, I mean to say a unique record, we will use path params. Yes, Kapil, you are right. Path param is used to find specific record. That means a single record. So when you want to identify a unique record using your application, then you will write a method by using path param. If you want to retrieve group of records based on some filter condition, then we will go for query params. Are you guys clear? What is query param and what is path param? Are you guys clear with what is query param, what is path param, when to use query parameter, when to use path parameter, how to send query parameters in the URL, how to send path parameters in the URL, how to read query parameters, how to read path parameters, what annotation we will use to read query parameter? Quickly respond to my questions in the chat box. All of you, please be active. Don't sleep. This course is very, very, very important. We are learning RESTful services to develop microservices. If you don't know RESTful services, then you cannot develop microservices. If you don't know REST API development, then you cannot understand microservices. Please be careful. Concentrate, respond to my questions in the chat. Don't join the class from your mobiles. If you look at the mobile for 30 minutes, you will feel sleepy. Don't join the class from mobile. Join the classes from the laptop. Don't use mobiles for joining the class because screen will be very small. And if you see the mobile continuously for 30 minutes, you will feel sleepy. Or you may get some messages in the WhatsApp. Then immediately you will open the WhatsApp. Then you will leave the class. Whenever you are watching the class in the mobile, suppose if your friend messages in the WhatsApp or if any group message come in the WhatsApp, then your mindset will be diverted to WhatsApp chatting. Your mindset will not be there on the class. 50% of the people with joining from the mobiles. If you join from the mobiles, you will be deviated from the class. If you join from the mobile, you will be deviated from the class. Join the class from laptop. Join the class from laptop. Join the class from laptop. Got it? Right. So with this, we understood what is query parameter and what is path parameter. So suppose if you have several books, I want to retrieve particular books, then we can go for query parameters. If you want to identify a particular book based on the book ID, then you can go for path parameter. Path parameters are used to identify unique records. Query parameters are used to filter the records. Right, good. So with this, we completed our discussion related to HTTP GET request using path parameters and query parameters. Next one, we need to deal with media types. As of now, my REST controllers are returning what data in the response body. What data we are getting in the response body, guys? When I send a request, what data I'm getting in the response body? When I go for first method or second method, what data I'm getting in the response body? Text data only. But in the real time, B2B communication will happen with the text data. Hello, welcome to Ashok IT. Good morning. All the best. Congratulations. This kind of interaction will be there. They will exchange payloads. In the real world, REST APIs are going to exchange payload in the XML format and in the JSON format. Okay, now how to deal with that XML data and JSON data? Already we discussed about XML data, JSON data in the Java. So we used Jaxb API to deal with the XML data, and we used Jackson API to deal with JSON data. Now, how to use that XML data and JSON data in our REST API? Okay, guys, here I am creating one REST API. I am creating one REST API. Assume that this is my REST API. REST API is also called as a RESTful web service. It is called as a RESTful service. It is called as a web service. I am developing one REST API. In this REST API, there is one method called product data. Get product, one get request method is available. Get request is available / product. That is the URL pattern. / product is the URL pattern. It is binded to get request. This is my REST resource. Now, can one REST API have multiple clients, guys? Can one REST API have multiple clients? Come on, client 1 and client 2. Clients are nothing but consumer applications. There are two consumers who want to access this product application. Client 1 and client 2. Client 1 and client 2. These clients wants to talk to the REST API, but there is a requirement difference. Two clients are available who want to communicate with my REST API. These clients are having different requirements. These clients are having different requirements. Client 1 is making a request and client 1 is getting the response from the REST API. Similarly, client 2 is making a request and client 2 is receiving the response. These are two different clients from two different companies. They are communicating with my REST API. Can I call it as a B2B communication? Can I call it as a B2B communication? Yes or no? Now, currently, we have any client to access our REST API. Currently, we are using Postman as a client for the REST API. Currently, what is the client for REST API we developed? Currently, we are using Postman as a client for the REST API. Can I say Postman is a client for the REST API now? Postman is acting as a client for the REST API? Yes, Postman is acting as a client for the REST API. Okay, good. Today, we are developing the REST API and we are testing the REST API by using Postman. This Postman is acting as a client for the REST API. Postman is acting as a client for the REST API. Very good. Now, today I want to develop one REST API to deal with XML data and JSON data. Client is sending a request, client 1 and client 2. There are multiple clients. There are multiple clients who are going to access my REST API. So when this client send a request to slash product, it will give the product data. When the client 1 send a request, it should give the product data. When a client 2 send the request, it should give the JSON data. This client is expecting XML as a response. Client 1 is expecting XML as a response. Client 2 is expecting JSON as a response. Understand my point? I want to develop one REST API. That REST API response format should be different from client 1 to client 2. Client 1 should get XML as a response. Client 2 should get the JSON as a response. It depends upon the client, right? One client want to get the product data in the XML format. Another client want to get the product data in the JSON format. Can we achieve this requirement by using REST API? Can we achieve this requirement by using REST API? Sending XML as a response to first client and sending JSON as a response to second client. Is it possible? Is it possible, guys? Yes or no? Yes, it is possible. Now, in the REST API, we need to specify producers. There is a concept called producers. I'm going to support the producers as XML and JSON. Producers represents in which formats the REST API can provide the response. Producers represents in which format that REST API can provide the response. Are you guys getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? What is the meaning of producers? Producers meaning it will represent in which format the REST API can provide the response to the clients. Okay, fine. I will use producers in my REST API. Producers will represent in which format the REST API can provide the response. I will develop a REST API with XML and JSON. I will develop the REST API with XML and JSON. It supports both formats. It supports both formats. Okay, guys, it supports both formats. Now here, how this REST API will understand first client want XML, second client want JSON. Client should tell to the REST API. Client will send a header called accept header is equal to XML. Client will send a header in the request accept is equal to XML. This client will send a header accept is equal to JSON. So now you are a client. You want XML or you want JSON. How I will understand? Whether you want XML data, whether you want JSON data, how I will understand? Now I am REST API. You are my client. My REST API will be developed by using producers. What is the meaning of producers? Producers will represent how many formats this method can support. This method will support XML data and this method will support JSON data. But how can I understand that you want XML or you want, guys, be careful, very important concept. I am developing one REST API using producers. What is the purpose of a producers? Producers will represent in which format this method can provide the response. In which formats this method can provide the response. This method can provide the response in the XML format and in the JSON format. Right. The client who is sending a request, client should specify in which format client needs the response. Client want the response in the XML. So client will send a header accept is equal to XML. This first client will send accept is equal to XML. Second client will send accept is equal to JSON. So based on the accept header, REST API will understand. Based on the accept header, REST API will understand in which format client is expecting the response. In my REST API, producers will be available. Based on accept header, REST API will talk to one component internally that is called as message converter. Will talk to one component which is called as a message converter. My REST API will talk to message converter to convert the data into client expected format. First client want XML, second client want JSON. I am not going to write the logic directly to convert the XML and JSON, because if I write a method to deal with XML JSON, my method will be tightly coupled with only XML data and JSON data. I want my method to be loosely coupled. So that's why I am going to develop the application by using objects. When client want XML, object will be converted to XML using message converter. When a client want to JSON, that object will be converted to JSON by using message converter. Now tell me, what is the purpose of produces and accept? Can you guys tell me what is the purpose of produces and accept? Clear, guys? What is the purpose of produces and accept? Can you tell me? Produces and accept. Purpose of produces and accept header. Come on, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Tell me what is the purpose of produces and accept. Produces will represent. What is the purpose of produces? Dealing with produces. What is produces? What is produces? Produces is a media type which represents the response formats supported by REST controller method. Produces is a media type. It represents response formats supported by REST controller method. REST controller method. Produces is a media type. It represents the response formats supported by REST controller method. One REST controller method can support multiple response formats. Multiple response formats like XML and JSON. Like XML and JSON. How this method will understand what format client is expecting? How our REST controller method will understand in which format client expecting the response? Client will send a request with accept header. Client should send a request. Client should send a request with accept HTTP header. Client should send a request with accept HTTP header. What is the meaning of accept HTTP header? Accept header represents in which format client expecting response. In which format client expecting response. Based on accept header, message converter will convert the response and it will send to client as HTTP response object. Okay, so whenever we are developing a REST API method, we need to use produces. What is produces? Produces is a media type. Produces is a media type. Produces represents the response formats supported by REST controller method. One REST controller method can support multiple response formats like XML and JSON. Client should send a request with accept HTTP header. Accept header represents accept header represents in which format client expecting response. Based on accept header message, based on accept header value, message converter will convert the response into client expected format. Based on the accept header value, message converter will convert the response into client expected format. Into client expected format. Clear with my point? Let us see this practically. Let us develop one API so that you will get more clarity on this. File new Spring Starter project. I'm going to develop one application, guys. 33 application REST. I'm going to make it as produces app. This method, this application will produce the response to the clients in the client expected format. Next, Lombok web dev tools. I'm taking 3 dependencies: Lombok dependency for setters getters, web dependency to develop the REST controller and to get the embedded container, and I'm taking dev tools. I'm taking dev tools. Next and finish. I created one application. Got it? You understand this requirement now? My method should produce the response in the XML and JSON. Client may ask XML response. Client may ask JSON response. Based on the client request, REST API should provide the response in the client expected format. How REST API will understand the client expected format? Client should send a accept header. Based on the accept header, REST API will process that request. Are you guys clear? Please read these points once. Very important. Real world REST APIs we are developing now. Real world REST APIs. How we will develop REST APIs in the real time. How we will develop the REST APIs in the real time. Okay. Produces is a media type. It represents the response formats supported by REST controller method. One REST controller method can support multiple response formats. Client should send a request with accept HTTP header. Accept HTTP header represents in which format client expecting response. Based on the accept header value, message converter will convert the response into client expected format. Let's see. I'm going to create one project with the produces. First, I'm creating one binding class, guys. We will represent the data in the form of objects, right? I'm taking one binding class. So I'm taking the binding class as a product. Inside this class, I'm taking some variables: product ID, product name, private integer product ID, private string product name, private double product price. Got it? Product ID, product name, product price. I'm using @data Lombok. It will generate setters getters. Can I use this class? Can I use this class for JSON? Can I use this class for JSON format? Can I use this class for JSON format? Yes. Can I use this class for XML? Can I use this class for XML? Is it a binding class or it is a normal Java class? It is a normal Java class. How to represent this class as a binding class now? It is a normal Java class. How to represent it as a binding class? If you want to deal with only JSON data, this class is sufficient. For JSON data, normal Java classes are also sufficient. But for XML, normal Java classes are not sufficient. So I'm going to specify @XML root element. Now, can I call it as a binding class now? Can I call it as a binding class now? Can I use single class for XML format as well as for JSON format? Yes. So you can use the product class to represent JSON data as well as to represent XML data. So if you want to convert the Java object into XML, we will perform marshalling. To perform the marshalling, we need to have a binding class. How to represent a binding class? We are representing the class as a binding class by using root element annotation. XML root element annotation we are using to represent this class as a binding class. Very good. I have product ready. Let us create one REST controller. New class. Let's create one REST controller. I'm creating it as a product REST controller. I'm creating it as a product REST controller. How to represent this class as a REST controller, guys? How to represent one class as a REST controller class? Can you tell me? How to represent this class as a REST controller? Can you tell me? How to represent this class as a REST controller? Yes, @REST controller annotation. I'm going to write a method public response entity. What we are going to send as a response? Product. Get product. Right. I'm going to write this as a get product. @get mapping. @get mapping /product. Got it. Let me set some dummy data for the product. Product object is equal to new product. Product object is equal to new product. Product object dot set product ID 101. Product object dot set product name as some mouse. Product object dot set product price as 450, something like this. I'm representing product object with some dummy data. Let us return this product object by using response entity. Return new response entity of response body should be product data. HTTP status dot OK. HTTP status dot OK. Are you guys clear with my REST controller? What my REST controller is returning? What my REST controller is returning now? What my REST controller is returning now? Come on, guys. What my REST controller is returning now? It is returning the product data. It is returning the product data as a JSON. Default will be JSON. Am I specifying produces now? Am I specifying produces now? Am I specifying any produces now? I am not specifying any produces now. I'm not specifying any produces now. Got it? Very good. Let's try to make a request. Let's run this application. Run as boot application. Observe, guys, carefully. I am not specifying any produces as of now. I will show you the default behavior of the REST API. Clear the console. Go to Postman. Localhost :8080/product. Observe carefully. Click on send. Oh, are we getting the response? Are we getting the response from the REST API? In which format we are getting the response from the REST API? In JSON format. Do I have the logic here to convert the Java object into JSON? Then how this? I am representing the data in the form of product object. I am returning the data in the form of object only. But why the response came in the form of JSON? As a programmer, am I doing that conversion? Spring is taking care of that conversion. Am I doing that conversion? Spring is taking care of that conversion. Come on, guys. Am I doing that conversion? Spring is taking care of that conversion. Spring is taking care of that conversion. Why Spring is taking care of that conversion? Why Spring is taking care of that conversion? Converting Java object to JSON is only my project requirement or it is universal requirement? Converting Java object to JSON is just my project requirement or is it universal requirement? It is universal requirement. So that's why by default your Java objects will be converted to JSON format. You no need to do that. You no need to do that. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Yes, we are clear. Okay, guys. Good, good, fine. By default, when I send a request, by default, the data is coming in the form of response. Who is doing that conversion? Can you tell me? In our application, who is doing that conversion now? Programmer is doing that conversion, or Spring Boot is taking care of that conversion? Yes. So which concept is used internally? Message converter concept used internally. Why they use a default as a JSON? Why they use a default as a JSON? JSON is the most widely used format and it is the lightweight. JSON is the most widely used format and it is lightweight. It is lightweight. Okay, but now I want to represent both formats. Client will decide which format they want. Right. For this, we are going to specify value is equal to product, comma, produces is equal to a array format. I want to specify application slash XML and application slash JSON. Application slash XML and application slash JSON. What I am doing here in the get mapping, I'm writing the URL and I'm writing produces. How I am writing the produces? Produces I'm writing with XML and I'm writing with the JSON. Are you guys clear? How I am writing a produces? What is the meaning of the produces? Produces will represent in which format client expecting the response. I have given the produces is equal to a array. More one method can support one REST controller method. One method can support multiple response formats. How I am specifying multiple response formats? By using produces. So here, if I give produces, that means it is supporting multiple formats. Application slash XML, application slash JSON. Produces is equal to XML and JSON. Client should send a request with accept header. Right. Now, how many formats my method will support? You may ask a question. Ashok, why are you returning the object? Why don't you directly write the logic to convert the data to the XML and send as a response? Guys, if I write the logic directly to convert the object to XML, what is the problem? If I write the logic to convert the object to XML, what is the problem? Method will be tightly coupled with only XML format. If I write the logic to JSON conversion, method will be supporting for only JSON. So do you want the methods to be tightly coupled with the format, or you want the methods to be loosely coupled with the formats? Do you want the methods to be tightly coupled with the formats, or you want the methods to be loosely coupled with the formats? We want the methods to be loosely coupled with the formats. So that is the reason, am I writing the logic directly to return the XML, logic to return the JSON directly, or I am returning a object? I am writing the logic of conversion directly. I am returning a object from my method. I am returning object from my method. Then who will take care of the conversions of the object into XML or object into JSON? Conversions will be taken care by message converter internally. Now, do you know how object will be converted to JSON internally? Do I need to teach you that JSON once again? Which class it will be using internally? Object mapper. Now, do you realize why I explained you JSON and JAXB before starting the REST API development? If you don't know JSON, then today you will get confused. Sir, you are returning a object, but response coming in the JSON, वे कौन convert कर रहा है, कैसे convert कर रहा है? That is what you are going to get a doubt. So that is the reason. First, I have explained you Jackson API, JAXB API. Then I have started the REST API development. This REST API will internally using JAXB API and JSON API to convert this Java object into JSON or Java object into XML. Are you clear with my point now? Are you clear with my point now? Are you clear with my point now? Yes. Yes. So we no need to do that conversions. Conversions will be taken care by Spring Boot internally using message converter. Very good. Why I am giving producers? If I don't give the producers, it will support by default JSON. Now I am giving producers. I am representing that it should support XML data and it should support JSON data. It should support XML data and it should support JSON data. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with my point now? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, how this client will understand that? How this client will understand that? Client wants the data in the XML, client wants the data in the JSON. How client can tell to the server, I want XML, I want JSON. How this client will tell to server, I want XML data or I want JSON data. How client will tell to server, I want XML data or I want JSON data. How client will understand, client wants XML data. How server will understand this client want XML, client want JSON. Come on. Client should send a request, right? How client will send a request? How client will send a request? Client will send a request using accept header. See here. Now, this is my URL localhost colon 8080/product. Go to headers. Am I sending any headers currently? No. Let us send one header called accept. Accept is equal to application/JSON. Send it. We got the response in the JSON. 200 is the status code. This is response body. If suppose if I send application/XML, send it. Are we getting the response in the XML format? If I send accept is equal to application/XML, I'm getting the response in the XML format. If I send accept header in the JSON format, I'm getting the response in the JSON format. Can I say my REST API is working? Can I say my REST API is working as expected by the client? My REST API is tightly coupled with any one format. My REST API is loosely coupled with the formats now. REST API is tightly coupled with any format. My REST API is loosely coupled now. My REST API is loosely coupled now. So this is URL get request. Client is sending a get request. Client is sending a get request to this URL pattern. Accept header is sending. Data is coming in the XML format. Body data coming in the XML. Status is 200. If a client send accept is equal to JSON, then we are going to get the JSON response. So can I say produces is representing in which formats the REST API will support, and accept will represent in which format client is expecting the response. You understand what is produces and what is accept now? You understand what is produces and what is accept now? Produces will represent in which format REST API can provide the response. Produces will represent in which format REST API can provide the response. Okay, guys. Produces will represent in which format REST API can provide the response. How to represent the produces? /XML/JSON. So this is my REST controller, which is representing produces. When your REST controller having a produces, client can send a request to the REST controller using accept header. Accept header will represent in which format client is expecting that response. Accept is a key value. So why header and key? Header represents metadata. Key value metadata. I'm sending a request with header. Get request. Get request will have a body, or get request will not have a body. Get request will have a body. Get request will not have a body. Get request will not have a body. You can send the request with the header. You see, previously we discussed about request structure, right? We discussed about request structure, right? Can you see in the request structure? Initial request line, header, blank line, request body. Initial request line contains my method, get method with this URL. Header, metadata. Accept is one header I'm sending. Accept is one header I'm sending. Key value, right? Blank line, body. Do we have a body data or we don't have a body data? Do we have a body data or we don't have a body data? It will not have the body data. Body is not supported by get. So that's why what I'm sending, get request URL. This is initial request line and this is a header. There is no body in the request because it is a get. When I send it, I'm getting in the JSON. If client want XML, client should send a accept in the request, accept application/XML. We got the XML data. Are you clear? What is produces? How to deal with produces and what is accept? Produces is a media type. It represents the response formats supported by REST controller method. One method can support multiple response formats like this. Client should send a request with accept HTTP header. Accept header represents in which format client expecting response from the REST API. Based on the accept header value, message converter will convert the response into client expected format. Message converters will internally using Jackson APIs and JAXB APIs. So this is one REST controller which is supporting for JSON data and XML data. This is my binding class. This binding class is having a Lombok. This is my binding class which is having Lombok. If I remove this annotation, will it support for XML? If I remove this XML root element annotation, will it support for XML data? No. For XML, we need to have a binding class. So for that, we are representing XML root element for XML. But currently in the real time REST APIs, people are using XML, people are not using XML. Currently in the real time, people are using XML, people are not using XML nowadays. People are not using XML nowadays. People are using only JSON. What is the default format that REST API is converting? What is the default format REST API is converting? JSON. Do we need to write any annotations for that? Do we need to write any annotations for that, guys? No, we don't need to do that. Okay. So can you practice this example before coming to tomorrow's session? How to deal with produces? I have given the example also. I will upload the notes into our website, guys. So please do the practice before coming to tomorrow's session. So tomorrow we will talk about post request. Today we discussed about get request with producers. So tomorrow I will explain about post request, how to develop a methods with the post request. I'm updating the class notes in the same file. Okay, REST API development document is updated, downloaded. Today's notes also will be available. Are you guys able to access it? Check it. I'm just updating the existing file. Yeah, check it. Are you able to access the notes? Yeah, produces example. Today's notes is also updated. Today's notes also updated. Can you practice it before coming to tomorrow? Good. Thank you. Guys, tomorrow we are starting DevOps with AWS at 9:30 a.m. If anybody is interested to learn the DevOps with me, then you can attend the tomorrow session at 9:30 a.m. Please inform to your friends. DevOps with AWS is starting from tomorrow. Linux, DevOps, AWS will be covered, right? So we have a poster in the Telegram. Please share that poster in your WhatsApp status also, so that your friends will understand that there is a DevOps course running in Ashok IT. I will be the trainer for the DevOps. Okay, guys. Yep. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Please practice it before coming to tomorrow's session. Bye bye.